Greetings everybody and welcome to another video. We're not testing Jayden in the commander spot today. No siree, we are testing him in the actual character spot. So let's see what we got. So we took a look at Jayden very quickly in the previous video and I want to show him off here. The stats I actually think hold up pretty well. His HP being a little bit lower than it was in the ice-based party, but if you think about that magic stat staying particularly high, it does kind of indicate something generally good here. We can also see accuracy has bumped up a little bit. We're not built particularly for accuracy here, but it is potentially possible. And a 117 speed with this. However, we talked about support skill switching, which would buff his his agility in replacement of those sandals, which is pretty good. Again, Gilgamesh is here, so we can kind of see Gilgamesh sporting a bit higher magic as well as HP and speed, but again, he is a front row character. You would expect him to have this kind of stat boost over a gunner range character such as Jayden. Now, Jayden does have a lot of range boosts here, and as such, I kind of want to show him off for that potential. So let's get into it. I don't think there's much else to talk about. For a friend unit, we can't really change too much. I think that the VC and potential CG Esper that will arrive in a week's time will probably boost Jayden even higher than where he already is. But most JP players seem to agree on something very quickly since Jayden's release, which is that he still can't take a spear to the chest after everything that's happened. So will history repeat itself? Will we be vindicated? Will we get all of the bouncy bubble beverage? No, 8. That's another game that I keep referencing that nobody knows anything about. So first off, taking a look at Jayden's limit burst. Now, limit burst is one of the things I didn't talk about in the previous video because, I mean, the limit burst is the limit burst. You can select 2 targets. Oh, I mean, also we talked about it previously in another video, but just in case, dispel physical based and magical based distance resistance, decrease single target resistance of 30 to 40 mod, seals debuffs for 3 turns, and grants haste of 42%. Now, what is important here, it is line of sight. This is the thing I did want to mention more in a demo than anything else. But as you can see, its range is not increasable, which, given Jayden's amount of range increase, is a little sad. If we've gone up on the hill here, we can see that we have increased his range by quite a bit already because of his support-based skill, but not too terribly much yet. Thankfully, we do have this ability, which we're going to cast right away. Give that extra wind resistance, decrease movement, and set up for a future turn. We'll also move Dark Veritas out a little bit. I do believe Dark Veritas has a new quest on JP that also I do still need to do, but since I just fell asleep last night after the update, I haven't had any time to do it yet, so that's life, as they say. All right, so we've boosted. We're starting to do all of our general buffs that we want to do, barriers and everything like that. Getting closer to our goal, testing Jayden when we finally get there. All right, so taking a look, we can see here that limit burst. Just proof of concept that it isn't changing, but now we have gained 2 extra range and we are able to hit other characters. Taking a look at this one, this is the slow ability. Or wait, no, is this the slow ability? I may have chosen the wrong one. Let me see. Move decrease of 1, CT down. You can see the range preview on here is quite high, potentially being able to hit characters from a good amount of distance. An ability like this, we're not too worried about how much damage we're dealing. Damage is not the priority. We are just getting CT down and potentially slow. 40% on a character like Joom, 0% on Sephiroth. 48% on a character like Gilgamesh. However, as you can see, certain things have certain chances on those characters, and as such, well, we're seeing some good things and some not so good things. So taking a look, his basic ability, dealing damage and decreasing shot resistance, we're dealing about 3,000 points of damage. Maybe move up to checking out one of his more powerful abilities. Let's take a look at this one. About 4,000, considerably less against Sephiroth. This one is Dispelling Shell, and therefore upping his damage potentially. And if the action is on a third turn, does get a bit of a boost. So it's not dealing that much damage yet, but this is not a piercing damage ability or anything as such. So let's change it to his other ability, which does have piercing damage, which apparently can't target friends. Interesting. Those abilities are always just a wee bit annoying because it's a lot harder to test them. If we were to, for instance, target that, we can get the HP heal from a good distance, and that is also increasing CT about 3,000 points. Not too terribly bad in a, in a grouping of VCs where we haven't upped the shooting power damage that much. So let's take a look at upping one of our abilities with this one. Gives us re-raise, dispel, ignore fatal, restores AP. We can also get an idea for how much AP he has generated very quickly without the use of his Trust Mastery too. So there we go. Oh, we have some also a little bit of movement just over there. And let's take a few swings at this character and see how much damage we're dealing. Okay, that is a fair bit. More than I thought you would have. I mean, he does have essentially damage-based range resistance. Of course, that is from 4 to 7, so getting in close is potentially dangerous. But I think what's interesting here, we're also seeing this 67% chance of his counter activating, which would knock June back 2 spaces, potentially giving him enough range to get away. But damage is slightly higher than I thought. So let's see if we can move June further back. Not sure if she does have the range to potentially hit him. Okay, seems fine. I mean, he doesn't have the highest amount of HP, and he's not crumbling immediately, but we're also not looking super great. Hitting him with a magic-based attack, Frostbite almost certainly going to take a hit there. And we can see about 1,930 damage that he's going to potentially hit back with. That's okay. Now bringing in Sephiroth, Force Curse, really nasty here. And again, getting very, very close to killing him, but not actually killing him. So there is something here too that is keeping him alive over some potentially really high damage dealing characters. But he is still taking a fairly high amount of damage, and in the reaction block case here, we don't have that. It's not triggering, and we can see accuracy is taking a bit of a hit against the character with a small evasion build, not even a big evasion build such as Riku. And then Ashimont just potentially outright killing this character. But here is something that I am curious about. If we move Ashimont in here, can we hit this guy? 46% the trigger? Let's give it a shot. Okay, interesting. So the 2 spaces can be diagonal too. I was curious about that compared to like how that would resolve itself. So yeah, Jayden is interesting for a lot of different reasons. He is a magic-based damage dealer, which is pretty nice at range. Not a lot of characters are like that. Matter of fact, Jayden might be mostly exclusive, have that, well, with all the versions of him, essentially is kind of one of the ones. He is capable of dealing a good amount of damage, and with his limit burst upping the amount of damage that he can do from decreasing single target resistance and granting haste, that is a pretty big benefit. Although with the range being shorter than a lot of his other abilities, it would be neat to see him in action in a various bunch of scenarios to see how his AI handles it and what he prioritizes and how AP management and everything does shake out, seeing that, you know, could be just firing from with high range like this. He could be firing a bunch, shooting a bunch of people, and then maybe runs out of AP too quickly. Although that doesn't seem to be the case, I'm just entertaining it as a possibility. He is capable of supporting characters with things such as slow from range and, you know, potentially pairing up with Yuna quite nicely. But DPS here isn't super great, and I think that probably with a BC and Esper, that would be padded out a little bit more. You don't want a range character to be able to auto kill anyone, but he, comparative to Yuna, yeah, his damage is potentially looking really quite juicy, and in combination with other characters. Again, as a single target attack like this, he doesn't exactly have, you know, barrier break or anything like that, so support with other characters will up his DPS. For instance, Ashen Mont, who does have single target resistant shred, that in combination with this would be a lot scarier. So Jayden doesn't seem to potentially be that great, depending on, you know, your initial impression, but I think he will actually be that great. I think that there is a real possibility for him to be one of the strongest characters in the game. He has just way too good of natural synergy with elemental and dual elemental VCs and other characters that are currently in the game. Earth and water, supporting right now some of the strongest characters with not the highest amount of competition out there. So you look at Riku, you look at Exia, both of those characters have very easy synergy with this character by just supporting him by being evadey, keeping the enemy's attention focused on Riku as opposed to the sniper, and her just dodging a bunch of shit, or Exia just being able to being one of the strongest characters in the game and still a triple S character. I see a lot of potential for Jayden besides just being in the commander spot. But, you know, without the BC and seeing what, if that has an Esper or anything potentially with it over the next week, well, I'm going to hold off on going too hog wild. But hopefully this has given a good preview of what this character is like, his abilities are like, and his damage output is like, and that will be able to make the decision for you whether you want to try for him or not, or wait for 10-2. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and see you later.